of Croydon, New Hampshire, with the attendance, the zoning, to hear their proposals for changes in the zoning ordinance. Now, I'm just going to start with you guys in terms of, have you guys got something written down in terms of, we got this language, we want to change it to this?
Not really, because we didn't even know what we were coming here for, to be honest with you, and I thought we gave our changes a while ago.
Yeah.
Give me a minute. I mean, I have a whole list of changes that we wanted to make that we had brought up a while ago, on different things.
Okay, well, I saw you at the fire station, what, about 6 weeks ago?
Yeah.
You know, we've got some time, we're going to sit down and write them out.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I apologize then, because I've had so much going on.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that, but I'm just saying, so you don't have concrete proposals to make. The reason why I'm saying this is we run up and, Kim said earlier, it's a drop dead of January 11th, when everything has to be set for warrant items.
Okay.
For it. And it catches up you very quickly in terms of what you have to do. You have to have a public hearing. If people don't like what you have to say, you have to have a second public hearing. Okay. And then all of a sudden you're button up.
Yeah.
And
But I do have one big question.
Okay.
On all these changes.
Okay.
No matter if you guys or us guys, because Brenda brought up something not too long ago. She's like, we need to have a meeting because of, I'll say junkyards was what she had brought up.
Yeah.
My point was, what's the big deal of having about it? If you don't have anyone to enforce any of these rules, changes we're going to make. I think that's gonna, we do? Or they're going to do it?
Well,
Nothing against
they
selectmen.
have the authority to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I guess that's still a big question is, they're gonna appoint someone, even if it's one of the selectmen, to start enforcing all these rules.
That's correct. And that's, my understanding is that is their job, if you will, is to.
Well, if they don't want to do it, I'll volunteer to hold them up.
Then, okay.
I would
Well,
love
it
that.
seems like it is either the zoning, right, is that will be revealed through reviewing, that there is, it basically does, goes to the select board.
does,
or
yeah.
Whoever's
It does.
designated.
Then I can change my license plate from lab bus to enforcer.
Go to the select board, get deputized, okay? And see what happens.
So you guys have changes that you work on this, right?
Yes.
And do you know what sections, at least, on what sections you're looking at?
Can I just ask, there might be some of the things for enforcement that could come under the health
Is
office.
this one of your modified ones?
So we do have 2 health officers.
Yes, that is. If there's anything in red in it, those are some of the modifiers. Give me a
It's,
second. I may have.
I don't know if
Things
red?
that lifts the bill.
some is in red, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I kind of do pay
I want to
attention
see
every
on
now and then.
page
Now, where does this
17
come from?
through.
Well, I don't have
Useful
yet.
education.
I have a cookie tin at home. Got this being around, so I put my iPad on top.
Jason's notes.
And then it-
Yeah, I got my notes too here. And
I doubt that it's dated.
Any changes to the pages that I'm concerned with?
Yes, yeah.
I got
so We sat and went over them and I
The
saw
date
we
of
have
these
that.
changes.
Yes, have the red mark.
I got a mark up here
Oh,
to red ink, but that was from last year sometime.
Well,
Yeah.
we've got a few, I don't think they were all of them. That was the problem.
So do you have something specific you?
We're on page 17, because I don't have anything on page 17.
17.
Honestly, a lot of ours were actually also language,
Verbiage.
Right.
verbiage in the language in it, not necessarily.
So nothing systemic to the, nothing that's gonna be like,
A vote on total change,
yeah,
not that I can think of.
okay.
I think it was
Yeah.
mostly housekeeping. I
It
have
was
your.
mostly
red one.
housekeeping.
Mhm, okay. One you don't have.
Mobile homes, mobile home parks was one of the questions, it said, can you tell me exactly what an attractive buffer strip is? Because that's all it says in it, attractive buffer strip.
It's green space.
Huh?
It's green space.
Would be handled under site plan review.
Yeah, it's green space.
Screens.
Green space.
Greens.
Green space. Trees, bushes, shrubs,
Okay, but
fencing.
How many feet's that?
All right,
Right.
okay. So it's
Yeah,
not-
that's
they-
our
they-
point.
all right. What Jim is going to talk about tonight is
Yep.
we're going to institute site plan review process.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to build a mobile home park, they come to us and they say, hey, I want to build a mobile home park. His committee, such as it is, and the committee would be what, you, the road agent,
Well, so,
somebody from the zoning board.
well, I guess, yeah, you want me,
Yeah,
you want to start? You wanna
might as
go
well
with that? All right.
put your oar in.
So one of the things that's, I think, incredibly important is that we embrace what we have, the laws now, and we look at and find out what we're not, processes we're not following. So we're not following the 1989 ordinance for any sort of site plan from page 17 to 21, okay? There's a process there that's called out where the select board is supposed to site visit these places. The select board is supposed to approve them when they're built by issuing what is, we refer to as a certificate of compliance. And what the compliance means is they complied to the site plan that they were approved for.
Yeah.
Their septic plan was approved, and there's a structure on the property. That's about all I can glean out of this, because there is no building inspection, there is no code enforcement to that degree, that somebody would go over there and say, well, you put the garage on the left instead of the right. It's basically a house structure, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,000-gallon septic tank. Is that all there? Well, no one's doing that process now. So the planning board wanted to modify that ordinance. And I don't really feel it's necessary to modify something that we're not even, a process that we're not even following until we actually try to follow the process and see if it works. So what I did was I came up with, and I apologize, I didn't realize you all wouldn't be here, because I would have emailed you copies, but take a look at, this is a very, oh, you guys have, that's a Bruce.
You have a copy of this?
Yeah, I have.
I'll share them all, okay? So basically what this does is this puts some people at the table when we have somebody come in that wants to do a major subdivision or a major site plan or any of that stuff. And basically what it does is it should be done for every single structure that we build, whether it's a major subdivision or a minor subdivision, because what it does is it brings all of the key players into the loop. It brings your select board, fire safety officer, and your road agent. So somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to build something. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to fill out this form, which is a site plan review committee application. They're going to pay $50 to fill this out. And that is going to, that $50 is going to get the administration together to sit down and pay for the minutes to be taken of the committee meeting that's going to review this plan. And what it shows is it shows all of the things the guy wants to do. What is it? What's the type of proposal? Is it a site plan? Is it residential, commercial, new construction, multifamily? Is it an ADU? How many units? Okay. And then are you converting from residential to commercial? Are you building an ADU attached or detached? Do you require a driveway permit? Do you require a septic system? Because then when this is reviewed by the planning board, we can sit here, by the committee, we can sit here and say, okay, well, they're not, all they're doing is putting a shed up, so we don't need to do any of this. And I use the shed as a light.
So if we don't mind me interrupting quickly.
Yep.
So are you gonna set a rule or whatever, anything over a certain square footage requires a permit? Or is it still gonna be strictly only if it's living space?
So that's not part of my responsibility. That was part of fees on what we were gonna do as far as that goes. And what we had suggested, the rule that we've been going under from, well, there's several different rules, but the one rule that I heard was if it has a foundation permit. I think it should be any structure over 250 square feet.
Agreed.
Okay, whether it has a foundation or not. Right, because if somebody's putting up a pole barn with a dirt floor and it's 5,000 square feet with bathroom, you're gonna wanna go look at it. Fire safety, if they have gas in it, you might wanna go look at it. You know, I don't wanna, I'm not trying to recreate the wheel, I'm trying to follow the rules that we have. So the rules that we have says there's a process that's supposed to be taken on, and it's supposed to involve the select in that process. And right now, what they do is they get a building permit, they look at it, they go, oh, yeah, that's for Jones House. Sign that over there. They don't know what the hell they're doing. And then when they come back, there's no certificate of compliance process. There's none of that.
my building permit.
And there's your building permit. Okay.
I paid $35. I'm gonna put up a detached ADU.
Mhm.
I'm not quite sure where I'm gonna put it on site plan. I said I would make sure that I stayed within the 35-foot setback. I gave a copy of my septic, that shows that I've added additional bedroom. I didn't have to do anything else. I don't have to provide a plan. I could put that anywhere and nobody's gonna know where I'm gonna put it. Nobody knows exactly what I'm going to add for electric or gas or heat or anything. Nobody knows what I'm gonna do. I said, oh, it's gonna be maybe this size or maybe not.
Yep. But again, to your point, we don't have anybody to enforce any of that stuff or to do those types of inspections. But what we do have is we have a process. So if we follow the process that Croydon's had since 1989, we're going to glean some good information out of that process. And by following that process for a year or so, we can then evaluate how is that process working and what changes do we need to make. But I think that for us to sit here and not have any sort of idea how the process should, and for us to sit here and recreate a process we already have, for what?
Right.
Right.
Waste of time.
Waste of time. We don't have to take this to town meeting, it's already approved. All we have to do is follow it. And adding a site plan review committee application is something the planning board will do with a couple public hearings. The fee change, the fee for it can be done under Chris's agenda.
And that's a warrant item.
And that's a warrant article.
Yep.
And if the voters vote it down, then the committee application is free at that point, because we still need to do it. But I think we should collect some money for it.
Yeah, well,
I like revenue.
Okay, so let's back. Initially, we were going to hear Jim's proposal on what we're going to do about site plan. Okay, so what you're saying is that we basically can institute your idea without it being a warrant.
You don't, this is a process. This is not a.
That's what I'm just
Yep.
saying.
Yep.
But you're saying now the regs are here. It's just a matter of
Follow
line them
the
up,
regs. Yep.
Adopting.
make it a process.
Because the
Except for
only,
the
the only
fee.
difference, except for the fee,
Except for the fee.
except for the fee. And everybody who does this process charges a fee for it because they take minutes when the committee meets.
Right.
So so we have a public hearing, one, and if nobody complains, then it becomes
Then it's a process of the planning board.
the process of the planning board. So when we go and have our public hearing for ADUs, Chris's fee increases, we present this as you just presented, correct? Nobody raised any objection, it becomes the law.
It becomes part of the planning board process. When somebody comes in to do a site plan, we hand them this. We say, before you come in for your plat or whatever you got, fill this out. We'll all sit down, get together, we'll talk about it, we'll make sure, and that's going to be able to give people like Clayton a lot more information, because we're gonna say, hey, we wanna see where the structure's going on the plan. And then somebody from the select board or designee by the select board has to go out and look at the site, and they have to look at the corner of the building and make sure that the setback is 35 feet, which is very easy to do.
Just
I
have
mean,
them stay.
most of our property lines in Croydon are fairly
Very
straightforward.
easy.
So Kim, as to your concerns about wireless technology, you live with what in terms of that proposal?
And again, it's handled by, so the wireless technology. I got a hold of David Shulock, the lawyer, up at the Department of Energy. And we finally had a great conversation. I mentioned that the RSA's state that there should be a model ordinance, and he said, well, since you reached out to us, we're looking for that. They don't have one. They've been restructured. The planners that used to be part of the old Office of Energy Planning or whatever they were, went to a different department. So the Department of Energy doesn't have any planners. They're looking through the library of materials that were left with them when they moved to see if there is a model ordinance that they can give to municipalities. As of right now, they don't have one. But thanked me for bringing this to his attention. Very, very nice gentleman. He did say that he understood, the difficulties for a small town to put together something like this, and the issue being, the big one being funding and having legal look at it. Said, in all honesty, if we were going to look at model ordinances from other towns and cities, he would suggest that we crib off the larger cities. Lebanon, Manchester, Keene, Claremont, Berlin, simply because they have money for zoning lawyers and other types of legal. And so their ordinances have been looked at left, right, and Sunday by lawyers. And or he said, perhaps if you have other small towns that are looking to do the same thing, we could get a consortium of small towns. That being said, we can always just lean back on the state RSA's, the state regs, kind of cover everything. The only little small areas where it kind of, we don't have a say, such as the co-locations, the site, the fall zones, the stealthing could be handled directly through a site plan. It's a change in use. If it's a residential property, they're going to be putting a tower on it. It becomes a commercial use. It's a change of use,
That's
which is handled right there in the site plan.
Yep.
So again, want a fall zone, the tower is 120 feet. They have to adhere to 120 feet plus a 35-foot setback. Easy peasy. So that and is wireless. And then the big other factor is that our master plan doesn't speak to wireless technology or broadband. So we need to write a chapter for it.
Or master plan, which
We
is
need to-
40 years overdue.
Yes, yes.
And I'm not sure Bruce or Jason's aware of the fact that some guy from Verizon called Paul today and is looking to put,
He wants to co-locate.
put ornaments on their
He wants
tower.
to collate, he wants to put an on that tower.
Oh, thank God.
About time.
Please let him.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, when I call this guy tomorrow, is I'm gonna say to him, okay, would you just write up quickly a plan as to what you're going to do in terms of how high are these things and how big are they?
Yeah.
And then drop it off here in the office, okay? And then
So he can't go any higher, obviously, than the tower itself.
One,
Yes, he
one would
can.
assume,
Well,
No, it's a radar. It's a bar, it's this tall.
Yeah,
It's
it's,
it's a series
it's
of
a
radars.
radar.
all around.
Yeah, right.
He
Right.
could go put it up on the top if he wanted to modify that tower.
I don't think so.
Better off.
They don't really.
the tower is already as
Yeah.
high as it's gonna be.
Yeah, and they can't go to the peak for
They
safety
can't go any
reasons.
higher, and the company that put that tower up knows that, and they build it the right height and everything, trust me.
Yep.
I had quite.
Yeah,
a
they had,
conversation with-
we had a tower empty for several years before somebody, and people build them because
Yeah.
they'll build them and they will come.
Yeah,
Right.
they build them and they will come. I've seen people put 6 antenna arrays up and then they come up and they get a modification from it and put another 20 feet up on the top, another antenna.
So I got a little surprise for you. You realize there's 2 antennas on there now?
You can't see them.
Exactly.
You're one of them, about time.
I'm the only one. I have 2 antennas on there now.
That's what dispatch.
but they're what, halfway up the tower?
Now,
Yeah, half, 3/4.
what I'm gonna be interested in this is if it's Verizon, is he going to be doing the 5G? And this is going to be like the power station, and then it's gonna take the 5G down through the right of way.
I also asked about that question. So, no, the 5Gs will still go on to towers.
On-
Not, the only place they're gonna be on telephone poles is in big cities and stuff where they can't put towers. But out in the countries, they won't be on a pole, they'll only still be off the
Would
tower.
be what, up on the tower? So anyway, so then we'll have a run through with this guy. As a matter of fact, it will be a run through with this guy. We'll invite him here to tell us what it is and sort of be our first site plan review.
I think that'd be great.
Or do we want to see if we can get him here for the 11th?
I think we have plenty to do on the 11th, but I'm That's just my
Well-
4 cents.
But,
Well, I guess,
How about
could we
it's an zoning
potentially,
meeting?
a big part.
I said, how about in 2 weeks and come to our zoning meeting and you guys, a couple of you guys come.
Well, okay, but the process will be when somebody wants to make one of these things that Jim's talking about,
Yeah.
they come to the planning.
They come, yeah, you can.
Okay. If they have a problem with what we're doing, they go to you.
Okay.
If it doesn't meet,
Talk
right.
about this tower.
No, so if it doesn't meet, yeah, I mean, if they come to us and it doesn't meet zoning, then it says right in here that you require variance, now you gotta go to you guys.
We can't stop them from doing that. They need to bring
Agreed.
in an application, and we have to approve the co-location. We've got 45 days. All we have to do is make sure that it meets the building requirements, the building permit requirements. Co-location is different than anything else. We can't have
But, okay, define co-location for me again.
placing the antennas on the tower.
That's it?
That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
Once the tower's up and it's approved. and it's
I'll
on.
call this guy tomorrow, see if he can drop something off between now and the 11th. And then ask him to show up on the 11th and we'll talk and see if that works. And I'll let you guys know when.
yeah, because technically, I mean, that policy can't really be adopted by the 11th, well, I mean, unless we do a public hearing and then on the 11th we adopt it or whatever. It's I mean, that's still now just a draft kind of thing.
Oh, the new policy.
Yeah,
It wouldn't apply to this because the antenna's already in place.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, we're just,
just informational.
quite honest with you,
What Kim's writing is so that we can have some control over future towers.
We can't do it. So co-location means placement or installation of new PWFSs on existing towers and mounts. And then the application just means that a request is submitted by an applicant to an authority for co-location on a tower or mount. We're going to want to see a copy of this license, Federal Communications Commission.
are we? Do you have a list of everything I should tell him to bring with him?
No, he knows.
He
He
knows?
knows what he need. Believe me.
Okay,
He'll probably hand you a
Maybe
packet.
we could have quickly adopted a exorbitant fee.
We need to charge him a fee. We can charge him a fee, but we don't have a fee. We don't have.
we don't have a fee, so
I think we should pay him, hurry up and put it on it.
Yeah,
Only if you get.
and not done yet. The only thing we can do, we're gonna review him for conformance with applicable building permit requirements. But otherwise, he's not subject to zoning or land use requirements.
So, right, so it's, he's putting us, basically, it's a courtesy call to tell us what he.
Yep.
Okay. And, which is good, because then we get people to start taking terms of that as we go forward in terms of site plan review. Okay, so did what Jim say help you at all in terms of what you guys want?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I still think we need to type up, the verbiage changes that.
Verbiage changes, right, okay.
Give you guys, go over it, make sure is nothing that has to be voted on. I do like your idea of, let's start pushing what we have now.
Yeah.
The only other thing I was gonna jump in and say also is the certificate of occupancy also afterwards.
But the problem, so I thought about that, and the problem with the certificate of occupancy is because of the way that it's defined, there were inspections that were performed, and we don't perform inspections.
Right.
Right.
So that is why the words in here are compliance. Did they comply with what they came in and said they're gonna build?
What they put down here.
Like to Kim's point, I want an ADU, it's gonna be 1 bedroom. You go and show up, that's 6 units.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So that's what the plan's all about. And it doesn't have to be a plan drawn by an engineer.
No.
And it can just be a plan that says, here, I got my tax map, I blew it up. Here's my driveway, here's my existing house, here's my septic, and here's where I'm going to put this. And it's 35 feet from here, and here's my protected wellhead. Everything's where it says. So when we walk there, they have it staked out, we can see it. We go back when it's done. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it's in the same place, or it wasn't supposed to be over here. And here's the plan that shows it.
So I
Now,
guess my question is, are we slowly gonna implement that? You guys start going out there, looking at these places, and again, still with a certificate of occupancy. Are we gonna slowly try to integrate that into it? later on. So people
I
are
think
building
what
houses, moving in and doing what they want.
if it was me, I would wait and I would let this process take
Right.
a year.
Okay.
See what happens. See how many actual buildings will go. See how many actual issues that we have with stuff like that and who's gonna come in and what the projects are gonna be. Because to get to a full certificate of occupancy, it would require, in my opinion, require some sort of part-time inspector
Mhm.
that would go and inspect, the framing and inspect the foundation and inspect all that stuff.
Right.
And, you could end up in a similar situation as the police chief if you hire that person.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't want to do that. So I think that if you establish this, if you follow the 1989 process and you collect the data out of that process, you can determine whether or not the certificate of compliance process is actually working. I mean, in larger communities and in larger municipalities, they do the whole inspection process as a public safety service, right? Well, people move to different places not to have to do that, so that they can build their own thing.
Right.
And it's their liability at that point, I think a municipality, when they have houses on top of each other, have to consider the safety of all the people there. Is the electrical built right? Is the plumbing right? It's great, because you've got your close proximity to people.
Right.
In Croydon, we're not in close proximity to anybody. So the reality is, if people moved here for this process, they didn't move here for a city process. I don't like the city process
Right.
particularly. But I think this 1989 procedure or rule, ordinance, law, followed correctly, would be interesting to see what the data shows, right?
Yep.
And I think that what's new to this is the fire safety officer. Because I think that the most natural progression, if you wanted to advance this, is to have a gas inspection.
Correct.
Because that is hugely public safety oriented.
Well, we're not gonna have to worry about all this gas business for long, because Mr. Biden.
Oh, that's
Okay,
true.
we're going green.
So,
But-
and
but-
a
okay,
gas inspection is very, very simple.
wants
They
us to
install the gas lines into the
Now he
house.
wants us to
They
get rid of
pressurize them to a certain PSI, and all Jay or whoever the fire safety officers would do would go to the home 24 hours later, and I think it's within 28 hours, and view the PSI of the page and say, yep, there's no leaks. How is that infringement on anything?
Yeah.
Because you could get a slow leak and you could blow your whole house up.
Right.
But gas has to be done by
A
licensed
licensed
installer,
Right.
which would be Goodrich or whatever they call themselves today.
or whoever.
So are they liable for what they're doing?
Of course they are.
Oh, they-
Of course,
Yeah.
they are.
Right.
Of course they are.
So
But
that-
that's not what you're trying
They
to
don't,
protect.
they don't pressurize it.
What you're trying to protect is Joe homeowner going to Home Depot and buying black pipe and
Yeah,
a
okay.
little bit of
Yeah.
pipe dough and putting the stuff together, and grandma's going upstairs because he had to put a stove in.
Oh, okay, you got it.
And next thing you know, the whole house blows up.
Okay.
Well, I think that's more the point of it. The point of it is that's a huge safety issue.
But are you gonna even, if like say an ADU goes in and, I guess, are we gonna be doing occupancy, inspection for ADUs?
No.
Certificate
Because that
of
would be a
compliance.
situation where
Certificate
you
of
could run a
compliance.
pipe up to the grandma's stove.
But the other thing that all of us have to take into consideration and look at is, what is this historical data? Is there any houses blown up in Croydon?
Not lately. Not yet.
Surprisingly,
What's the code on hardwiring and, smoking carbon monoxide?
I will double check, but I believe the state, it now requires any new buildings that all smoke or CO combination have to be hardwired through the house and battery backup,
And so if you put an addition on the house.
I think it's smoke
Don't
only.
you have to
or just, maybe
That's
it's just
what-
smoke only, but, huh?
put an addition on the house? Don't you have to retrofit back into at least the bedrooms?
I would have to look, I honestly don't know.
Okay. I would be curious about that, because that is maybe one of the sticking points.
If your system is already hardwired, then I would say yes, that has to be attached to the rest
Yep.
throughout.
Well, that would be easy because you're already
I mean,
hardwired.
I shouldn't say this because we're on camera, but our own two schools here, I'm not even sure if one fire alarm goes off in one building, if it goes off together, which is an issue,
Mhm.
Okay.
but I won't get off around that.
Tomorrow, somebody from Concord will be
Something I need to
heading
look
for
into. Right.
of the schools.
But
Another thing, a question I have,
As long as he
okay,
doesn't want to
changes
ride
of
the bus, I'm
verbiage.
good.
Fire or-
That's a housekeeping article.
Sorry.
You can put
It's a
them all
housekeeping
together,
article,
yeah.
right? As long as the intent of whatever the regulation says
Hasn't changed.
hasn't changed, then we can
You should be
change the
able to do it in
wording.
a public hearing. You guys should be able to do it in a public hearing.
No, we would do it in a public.
That's
hearing.
right. We send it, that's
Okay.
right.
Yeah,
No, you should be able to do it.
Verbiage, as long as it doesn't change intent.
if all we're doing is changing house to houses or,
Yep.
then no, we should be able to do it in a public hearing. It's
Okay,
just-
as long as you don't change the intent of the ordinance,
Okay.
rule, or
Right.
law.
So that's something, I guess, then we could, through the winter, we could work on that.
Yeah.
Yep. So that takes care of that. Okay, our meeting on the 11th, what specifically are we going to do on the 11th? Are we going to come up with a final
Yeah,
proposals as to go forward to
Yep.
a public hearing?
you're the one who wants to get it done in November. So if you want to get that done and set up so we can have the public hearing start in November,
I
then we're
do.
going to have to finalize them next week.
Okay, and I do because I want to be here.
Finalize them.
So we want to finalize this. This should be a public
Finalize
hearing.
that.
This is
Yeah.
the
Okay.
process. So I need the planning board folks who I emailed this to, this is
Can I
draft.
hang on to your?
Yeah. So if the zoning board folks would like to review this too, and have any comments and things we should add or things we should take away, I don't want to make it too muddy, messy. It looks like it's a lot, but it really isn't, because it's a lot of information on who's doing the stuff,
Right.
who's asking, and I double spaced everything because people like me write messy.
All right, so, okay, so at this point, we have two warrant items. One is the new fees.
Yeah.
Chris is working on. The other is the ADUs, which I moved one on.
Yeah.
What you're doing is a process, so all we need is a public hearing to adopt it for the planning board. We don't need it to be a warrant item. So we're now down to two warrant items.
Mhm.
Good, okay, that's good. And what you guys are talking about in terms of changing language,
Right.
is basically a public hearing item and,
Well, there's more needed a building permit for anything over 250 square feet.
No, I don't know where
That would be a change that would have to be voted on.
we would have to make that a change. I'm leaving this as, it depends on how the clerk feels the day that they come in. Because that's the way it's been, right? I mean, I came in for 4 building permits and I was turned away.
Can I make a minor suggestion to that?
Yeah.
All right, so average square footage of 2 sheets of plywood, 16 by 16,
Mhm.
that's 256 feet,
It's 32. 16 by 16 is, yeah, but that's flat.
256. Gotcha. Sorry. We're good.
10 by 10 building's 100 square feet.
Right.
correct.
So a shed, so when you get, I agree with the two.
Bruce, you have
Yeah,
a point?
What, just talking about changes.
I guess Christie's not coming.
If you look at Article 9, which is on page 18. I think there'll need to be a lot of changes in there, and those are not just housekeeping.
Page 18.
Page 18 has to do with the adoption of rules. It says,
Yeah, I had a question mark here.
but for one thing, I don't know where any of this language came from. I think you have one thing in red, maybe.
I don't have
I don't have
any.
You don't have any red? Okay, it's just on mine then. So number 1 is the Board of Adjustment shall, blah, blah. You get down to the 5th line, talk the term of 5 years. It's never been 5 years. It's always been 3 years. I don't know where that came from. And the,
Where did the 3 years come from?
from the statute.
Okay.
Okay, the statute.
Yeah.
Okay, so something like that, okay, that.
Wouldn't that be
doesn't-
housekeeping?
Yeah, that's housekeeping, that's not.
Well,
To go from 5
changing a
to 3?
term from 5 years to 3 years.
You could
I don't-
call
But
that
that doesn't change the intent because you're following the state law.
You're actually going to where you
Right.
should have been in the first
Yeah.
place.
Well, right, it was never right.
You're
Shouldn't
right.
shouldn't have been that way.
You're righting a wrong, right?
But But the way we've got it worded is it's supposed to be a 5-year term.
Okay.
I think everybody's only been serving 3 years.
Okay.
And I don't think that changes the intent of the thing is to is to have a term.
But the bigger thing I think is this is such a mess, the process of appointing somebody to the zoning board. The planning board and the select have to propose 2 people to give it to the moderator, then select those 2 people to be on the zoning. My thought is, no, no offense to the select board, but just give the select board the authority to appoint somebody to the zoning board or an alternate, or to fill a vacancy. Don't go through this big rigmarole of the selectmen and the.
But is that part of an RSA that you have to
No.
follow?
Okay, so it says in A, the Board of Adjustment shall adopt rules to govern its proceedings in accordance with the provisions of this ordinance and the provisions of RSA 31 as amended. So 31 might have been where it said 5 years, and now it's in 672 or 670.
Oh, it's been amended.
673, yeah.
Yeah, so
This is
maybe,
1989.
yeah, 1989, things have changed.
It was never, I went back and looked, it's never been.
Never
Oh,
been
really?
5 years. So can't you guys adopt these rules them at a meeting? You're supposed to
No,
adopt the rules.
that's to govern our proceedings.
Doesn't this govern your proceedings?
I don't think those are not our proceedings. This is how you get members. My rule of proceeding, I think, are just ways that we have whoever is in charge, what the process is when somebody brings in an application, what they need to do, what we need to do. But this is, I don't know.
Okay.
If you think that we can on our own, or well, the planning board on its own, okay, I guess you're saying it's really the zoning board. They can say, okay, there's going to be 5 members and they are going to be appointed by the select board. And, it says 5 years and then 1 member is appointed each year. You only got 3 members appointed, 1 each year is not going to work either. And then if it's a vacancy, who fills that vacancy? And this is the board, the moderator fills that vacancy, provided they get a list of nominees submitted to him by the planning board. It just,
Okay, all right, let's stop right there.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the planning board's responsibility to make changes.
Yep.
So it's gonna come through us at some point, okay? And what you.
well, maybe, but
But but the actual change, when you might give us words, but the planning board will hold the special meeting to say, these are the changes, okay? That's
what
in the
Kim
RSA.
suggested is these are our rules.
Agreed.
So we have the authority to make rules, so we
Indeed.
don't have to make, whatever our rules is, we don't have to go in front of it.
Okay, but to change the wording in the zoning ordinance,
Yep.
okay, you have to hold a public hearing, okay? Yeah, whatever word you give us
Yep.
is what we will submit.
Yep.
Okay. Again, you're not fooling around with the intent, you're fooling around with the process, correct?
Well, you're fooling around with the intent.
You are.
The intent originally was that the moderator is going to appoint them based on him moderating, getting input from the select board and the planning.
Well, I would take a macro thing and say, this is what we're looking at a planning board, okay? And this is where it was, and this is where we want to go. And the intent is the same. We want to come up with a planning.
I
just
I
leave
don't
it.
care, whatever, you're right. I mean, the planning board's in charge of.
Or excuse me,
making
a zoning
changes.
board, I'm sorry, zoning. This is, I'm not articulating it properly.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is you've got all of this verbiage that is 40 some plus years old.
Yeah.
God only knows where a lot of it came.
1955, this
Right.
one.
Okay.
So
So,
it's referencing an RSA though. 31:67-A.
Yeah, and the question is, has that been modified
Yeah.
for years?
I know it
Pursuant
says,
to 1955, whether it was there or
there
not, there
was one.
wasn't one,
There
but it
wasn't
says
one.
1955, so.
I don't have, have you looked,
But the planning board and the board of selectmen shall
31, 60, to see whether it's been amended?
67, yeah, it's 673-6 now.
And does it say this, what does it say?
It's basically the same language. I didn't bring it with,
Okay.
Oh, at 376?
but it says that
Six
the,
seventy-three, colon six.
Oh,
the governing body is the one that will set up the process for appointing
Yeah,
the.
so 673-3. And it states that the members shall either be elected in a manner prescribed by RSA 669 or appointed in a manner prescribed by the local legislative body. Each man, so
That's a select board.
the select board set this up. The select board has to rescind it and tell you guys that you guys could go back to 669.
and the changes you're making are to be in alignment with current RSA. Okay?
Yeah, which is
Which
not a,
doesn't need a
not a vote.
vote on
You can't vote on that. because
Yeah,
People
no.
can't vote. They're not gonna
No.
follow the law.
No, you
it.
can't.
So what you're trying to do is, you're trying to update something that's become obsolete.
Right.
Or never was right in the first
Wasn't right in the first place. One part of it wasn't right in the first place. You don't have to mention that, but just use the word.
place.
So would they rewrite that section and then send it back to us for a
Yeah.
public hearing?
Yeah.
And then we'd hold a public hearing and say the zoning board wants to change this because it's
Right.
outdated?
That's
No, it
fine.
has to go to the select board. The
So
select
we hold a public hearing though for it.
Don't we hold the public?
So
hearing?
I believe we hold a public hearing, then we send it to the select board for final approval.
The legislative body is the town meeting. It has to go to town meeting. So yes, you guys would have to write it up, you would give it to us, we would hold the public hearing and it would
Yep.
go to the town meeting to be, it would be a warrant article.
And it would be updated.
Yes,
It would be updated.
it would be update this, but it would have to go to the town meeting. Absolutely.
Where did I see? So,
We better check on that because I don't know how they could vote against it.
Well, it would have to have an explanation. So we'll have to make sure that
Still don't against it.
they could vote against it.
So I don't know how you can vote against following current law.
Yes.
So I would check with whoever we have to check with to see if this is just an update,
Whatever.
administrative update,
So it's NHMA.
NHMA.
so there's a question, is this an administrative?
We need a
update?
resident.
In case we don't have to be
Yes.
a public hearing, or is it something?
Yes.
And who's gonna go to the what do you?
NHMA.
Guys, you want to do that?
Go to the NHMA.
To find out whether we can consider this an administrative update
Yep.
or something that requires,
Call.
something that requires a warrant. And that
Let
was,
us know. We can add it to our public hearing if it needs be and then take it on to the town.
But you're right, Bruce, that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and the paragraph in the middle, it says in the first instance, the members board adjust, that's what was used when it was.
Well, when I
set.
read it, I put a big question mark next to this.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what is this? Okay.
yeah, it's a mess.
Okay.
That's, we got that one out of the way. Anything else anybody would like to add?
Well, I need that question, well, the zoning board is here, because I didn't know, I have some questions about the fees.
Okay.
Because
About the what?
the fees structure,
Oh, the fees.
because I did it in that, well, this was more from the planning board people, but you guys can take, I looked at these comparison, and I looked at different towns. And last time, I have like 6 copies, but they saw it last time.
I have my own copy.
So,
I printed it out.
but the problem is, so we've discussed the planning board stuff, and this compares with different towns. And last time we discussed how you can see our zoning board, I had current and then proposed, which someone, so I want to first check if those are accurate, these proposed application fee, permit fee, and fire site visit. Because I don't know, I'm not exactly sure. They came from the sheet that we had of a proposed fees for the zoning, but I never actually have talked zoning.
So I think our big question on your application fee was the $20. Was that just for the application or how do you work when you have to do all of your notifications? Yeah, so if you have to notify all your
Any kind of-
butters.
Yeah, and so what we've been doing is we apparently what everybody's been doing right along is having the applicant notify and pay the costs. And we're paying the advertising cost out of the $20 to put it in the newspaper.
Which doesn't even cover it.
Which is about $80.
Well, so this is what I found in doing the analysis for the towns. Some of them have the planning and the zonings on it. What I found trying to look more towards the zoning was that a lot of them, I mean, Newport and Grantham, these, I don't know, bigger places have, pretty hefty application fees. And then beyond that, it's kind of, it depends. Because if you need this or that or an inspection, and then the smaller towns, Washington, Leominster, some of these, there's nothing really. It just says in their ordinance that, it's gonna be as needed based on the situation and blah, blah, blah. So, that's for everyone, is that I didn't really find any new information about other zoning because it all seems a little haphazard.
Right, but just like, take a step backwards and prove it. So you're notifying these things in the papers now. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, we changed our ordinance for the planning board to have warnings. We can now use the website. Can't, what do you think?
They cannot.
The zoning board cannot use the
They
website?
cannot.
Why not? Who says it can't?
The RSS.
Statute allows the planning board to, allow the zoning board to,
So you have to use
we have
the
to
paper.
publish it in the newspaper.
And the papers are all costed.
Still,
You may
Which
need
is
more
crazy
than
because no
50.
one reads the paper.
You're gonna need.
Right, agreed. So
Yeah, I'd
Only
say at
when
least
it involves
75.
Croydon.
it's still the only legal means of transmitting municipal information like zoning, because you guys are your own judicial body.
Yes.
Okay, then if at some point this is gonna end up going in paper, we know now that papers cost, what, $77 for the 16th page or something, then your application fee should be at least $100.
Sure.
And I think I thought the last time we were talking, we were looking at Grantham's, which was 200,
I do the 200
and thinking that 200 is probably,
in line,
Okay,
because if it's a long thing, you're gonna pay
Yeah.
more, right? Because it's
Right.
by the column.
and if we're gonna pay the certified mail fees in addition to that, which we haven't been doing, which we should be doing, because it should be up to us to decide who the abutters are, not the applicant.
Right.
And say, hey, yeah, I sent them out, here's the green card, but nobody ever signed for it.
Yeah, so for that, at least for the planning board, it's a mix where, a lot of them just don't say, but some of them lay it out. It's like the checks, this is what it's gonna cost, but the check's gonna go to, made out to whoever. So it's doesn't seem like there's a real standard, because that has changed too, based on postal rates. And
Yeah,
so,
A lot of the applications will have your flat fee of $200.
Yeah.
And then you'll tell them, okay, you're gonna have all these abutters. And so you have 10 abutters times this.
$7.50 per
Yeah.
butter, yeah.
So my question is, if we're gonna charge, so we have minor subdivision application fee. What does an application consist of?
Well,
Can we make that the site plan review application?
we're gonna have an
Right.
application like that.
So then we don't need a fee for this and a fee for that. It's one thing. So shouldn't,
We will have to look, I've pulled everything out and I've looked at the subdivision and site plan review booklet from the Department of Energy and
Yep.
Planning. I'm pulling the plat review portion of it,
okay.
so we can add it to the site plan.
So we need to figure out where this is
Yeah.
gonna fall
if
into.
people don't
this
wanna pay
fee
the 50
process.
fee, and then you turn around and give them 10.
It would be,
150.
yeah, included in that, and it would be just part of it, platting.
Right. So
Well,
it'd be
the other
one fee
thing-
for the form and that form and this.
Because
one.
the other thing some towns have is, like this one that I was looking, somewhere here, that I modeled a little draft that I made was, in terms of the sheet of tabulating, basically it's like, there's just fee at the top, application fee. It's 50. And then it's, are you doing major, minor, are you doing driveway, are you doing this, are you
And
doing
then
that?
that adds, right?
Yeah, so it's like, there's just one application fee for whatever, and then you
okay. Now,
and that was what I made up.
does your proposed site plan review say, okay, we start with a basic application, $50, just
Yeah, which is fine to cover.
fine. But is there some wording in here saying, fees down the road are dependent on basically whether or not the town has to hire an engineer to see what, I mean, there's certain.
No,
things in
mine
site plan.
doesn't. Mine doesn't. This one does.
Shouldn't we have that somewhere?
Yours does?
Yep.
Ours does, right?
So the subdivision regulations state that?
No, I'm just saying, site, well, I'm talking about site plan now.
Right.
Yeah.
So if it's something fairly major and the
Yes.
town has to incur the cost of an engineer or whatever, soil expert.
But that's on that application.
Yes,
Which application?
the subdivision
So-
application.
The
We can add it-
review committee application doesn't supersede the site plan application. Site plan application, and then you got to decide which way you want to go. If you want to incorporate them all together, we could say that the site plan application falls into the review, and you have a site plan application and review process, and this all goes with it. And then you charge one fee, which would be a lot smarter.
Because
They get-
that's,
they get
like,
the
this
whole
is
book.
Charlestown.
Yeah.
Charleston. And they have just application fee, all formal applications except sign permit is $100.
Yep.
So that's just whatever you're doing.
Right.
And then it goes into minor, blah, blah, blah.
What is it that you do?
But-
And then you have an application for each one of those processes. And it states if there's additional engineering or we have to hire some type of professional because it's beyond our scope, the applicant would be in charge of those fees. They have to cover those fees.
Okay.
So then my thought would be on this is not to charge a fee. My idea on this would be, because of that, my idea would be have them fill that out. And when that's filled out, hand them this. If you say, this is part of our process before you come in and present, come in and fill this form out so we can get together. We can make sure that we have everything in line.
So,
Because again, we're only talking about 8 to 10 a year
Yeah.
at the most.
So I want to take a step back. Chris, in terms of how you're going to present the fee structure, are we going to go with something like that? You walk through the door, it's $50, right? For us to look at. And then you go down, as you're talking about Charleston, whether or not they're using it, it's a step thing. As to
I
what-
mean, this was the draft thing that I came up with and I emailed it. I don't know how many copies I had, but this was based on kind of how we've been doing. Where.
Yeah, okay,
You
this is what I'm
have-
talking about. Okay, right.
So it still breaks it down by what there isn't a broad application fee. It's like, okay, what are you doing? Pay the 50, blah, blah, blah.
Okay,
And then I just put a note of abutters notices, recording fees, deed registries, per current rates are gonna apply. Because that's not technically,
Just do that.
what we're setting.
We could just do that. We could just staple these
Right.
together.
Right.
And then they have to fill out all this information and then it comes back to us as the application. We could just make this our application.
like that, yeah. I mean, I guess the only question that leads to is wondering.
I need you to
we've
add-
had the annexation and merger fees, 75.
Yep,
With the
but
other-
the other thing you don't have, we need to add on here is the certificate of compliance fee, which is currently $2 and we should probably raise that.
I think we tried, it's in the zoning ordinance,
Certificate of compliance.
and that's in the zoning ordinance?
yes,
It is, yeah. Yeah, that's like,
I thought we-
page 17.
17, and
Right.
that's 17 through 22 is the
And
whole.
it says, oh, wait a minute, not 17. Hang on.
Top of page 18.
okay.
Top of page 18.
Yeah, this one, okay.
Well, and that's
Yep,
the
there it is.
question also going back to the
$2.
zoning board. So is this gonna be something that you guys are gonna wanna get on where it says, ZBA is gonna have
Yeah,
application fee?
because it's going to be
there.
part of the warrant. So
Yeah.
you're going to have to tell us well, you can tell them right now how you would like to set that up for your guys.
So,
Okay.
Cause that I would maybe we'd put a thing up here that just says zoning board. And then down here, we say zoning board and it's.
Chris, what you'd want to do is you'd want to have 2 separate forms, one for zoning and one for planning. And you don't need to have the voters vote on the form. The voters are only voting on the fees.
Right.
So you could just put the fees in a spreadsheet and just say, these are the old fees, these are the new fees, this is what.
Like
the
you
town is
did here.
proposing," Like you did. That's more than sufficient for that.
Basically, the only fee we're gonna have for zoning is just if they're.
Variance.
Variance.
But, and we were, Jack,
I'd love
we're
to see
taking that from 50 to what did you guys say, 200, right?
Okay. And the permit fee is
20
Sean?
to 200.
Yeah. My suggested, my form is gone because I think it's absorbed into these fees.
And the $2 is going away, right? We're saying,
Permit fee is going to go away.
It's gonna go,
The $2.
and then the other thing I had was Croydon
because it's
Fire
absorbed
Site.
in the 200.
Hold on to that for 1 second. But should we also say that that $200 is now gonna cover the ads
In the
the
mailings.
mailings,
Right.
and whatever that else involved.
Well,
Oh, they're gonna want anyone
Yeah.
hearing that
Wanna
much of
cover
an
the
increase is
mailings.
gonna wanna hear an explanation as
It's
to
okay,
why.
look at 3 or 4.
Which would be easy, because you can say,
Okay, then I'm gonna argue a little bit. Then then why are we going from 20 to 200 then? Why so?
Because the cost of an ad in a paper is $77
Have to
minimum.
keep changing.
Per
every
column
couple
inch.
years.
yeah, per column inch. So it's a minimum of $77. It could be $150 if it's a long notice.
What happens if papers go away and there is no?
Then we change it again.
Then the RSA will.
Well,
go
yeah, the
away,
statute's gonna
and
change
you
then.
got
What happens when you get a kink in your hose? I mean.
Get some water.
Just
curious.
oh, yeah, because this, the zoning board is,
I didn't realize that's the expense of an ad.
so we'll draft up.
Yeah.
The proposal will be the spreadsheet, that will be, and I have a one where it just shows, well, this is our current, but we'll have one that just shows Croydon only, current.
Yes,
proposed.
yes.
That'll be what will be
The warrant,
presented at
that's
the
the warrant
warrant.
item.
And then we'll have the full comparison can be used just to show the presentation, and then these will just be for our sake until the adoption is made, and then we say, okay, and we can have a separate zoning board form.
You better be ready to speak on it. You better be
And
ready to speak
maybe,
on
I
that
mean,
one
that's
at
all
the meeting.
backward, when it comes to say variance, blah, 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 blah. So,
Oh, I know.
Easy.
Easy peasy.
and this is the current one for anyone who wants it, because this is supposed to be posted, so. I mean, if anyone wants.
Is
it,
certificate of compliance on there?
No.
No.
So add that or what?
Yes, you gotta add that. You gotta add that.
Larry?
He's
I
going right there.
I've got one right.
So, just under its own.
Now, what do we, certificate of compliance?
We just need the
is that what-
certificate of compliance
For
added to the
$2?
fees. It's been $2. We should probably decide what we want to charge for the final select board visit to the site.
Oh,
Well,
so that we're gonna call this now certificate of compliance rather
That's
than.
what it's
limitation.
called already in our ordinance from 1989.
So if it's something we need to, so I need to add
Not
that to the
inventing anything.
comparison, is that's gonna be a change.
I'm sorry?
I need to add that to changing fees.
Correct.
So what do we want to change it to?
I don't, that's,
Hold on.
You would have, yeah, say you'd have to show up to the meeting next Tuesday,
Um,
correct?
Correct
Well,
what?
select board,
oh, ask the select board what they'd like to change it to.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Next
$2.
week.
I mean, it's a planning fee, though. It's a select board function, but it's a planning fee.
It's most comparable to the site plan fees. The certificate of compliance.
Right. So you think
You
of
already have it here.
$25, $50?
Well, they run, so Washington is a $30 fee with 50 to 150 is other. Newport is $100, Grantham is $200, Charleston is $100 with 50 to 400. And then Unity is $300.
But I mean, I think their site plan things are more in line with,
Yeah.
you know, this new process where you're doing a full review, not just
Uh-huh.
physically just going to the site.
What would be the value of $2 in 1989 today?
102.
Yeah, like 18.
358.
It's on, you can Google it.
$20.
But anyway,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Oh, you had it on the sheet here somewhere. So,
did I give that to you at one point with the
the fees.
I gave him the
Oh.
sheet once with the
593.
percent, yeah.
You can't go higher than the application.
So $1 in
For the
1972 is
application.
593 today. So it would be, I mean, these would all be, if we just did it on inflation, they'd all be even higher.
Yeah.
So I'll put, I mean, I think 20 at least.
20. $20.
Well, no, but somebody have to get in their car and drive out there and spend
Yeah.
an hour, say.
So
Right.
I'm
And you
glad
gotta
you
go
just said
back.
that, because the last one was the Croydon Fire site visit.
Yeah.
Like you said,
It's a
eventually.
group site visit, yeah.
Right, eventually we'd be going out doing gas checks.
That's gotta be the fee.
well,
Right,
Eventually though, if it's not right now, then.
if it's not right now, and I had brought it up, I think, in the zoning, it's like, hey, the chief, whoever it may be, but me right now, yeah, I want to get paid for my time going out
Indeed,
there.
so this
because
one-
I'm stopping my business to go, to go do this. And I feel the same way with the select board or anybody else that's gotta go out and do site visits, they should be getting paid.
Agreed.
You're taking time away to
Okay.
do stuff.
And
Yeah,
this is
but
the
we
time
were-
to change it, okay?
Right, exactly.
So how much is it worth, what's an hour of your time?
What did we say the
I
driveway?
put down
I
$75.
would too.
What did we call the driveway permit fee?
725.
How much is the driveway permit fee?
30, I believe.
No,
We
I
went up
thought
to
we
30?
went up. No, we
No.
went up to like
What did we
50,
go up?
I think, 50.
I believe it was.
No, I'm getting all lost.
Oh, wait a minute, here we go.
Driveway went
100
from
across the
15
board.
to 50,
50.
because that's gonna be at least, yeah.
2
We're gonna
visits
go
by
out the first
Joe.
time
So
to make
50
sure that
bucks.
it's there and safe, and the second time to make sure it's
For
safe.
certificate of compliance?
For the
I'm not looking to
COC.
get compensated my hourly rate because I'm not gonna tell anybody what my hourly rate is depending on the job.
So my.
I mean-
It's a municipality, so the select board people are already paid.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
that's part of their job.
So
Yeah.
50
From
for the
1989.
COC.
Yeah.
$50 is probably a fair
CO
price for the civic compliance.
Yes,
Okay.
that's where I was going with the comparison.
I'm
Because there's two.
fine with the more revenue we can collect.
Okay, so
You can
that's.
explain it to the public, from
compliance
2 to
has gone
50.
From 2 to 50.
To 50.
Then
Oh.
back to the fire.
Now back to the fire.
We have it expired, say, $75,
Yeah, that's fine.
and that's fine.
Or the fire
Now, do the
department, site
inspection,
visit fee,
do your
Where
tax.
is this, so this is under zoning, so I'm just trying to see, is it the appeal and?
Why would that be in a zoning?
I don't, that's just what
Fire
it is.
inspection?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's, health and safety.
Yeah.
Right.
It's health and safety.
So is it just on its own?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But what, I mean, what would trigger that? That there's a report, or it's a new building, or, because is it in the process for a building permit?
Actually, it is in the zoning, in the process, that it's supposed to be inspected.
Okay.
Okay.
But it is in there, and I was like.
In this?
All right, now here's something. Now, if you go make this visit, okay?
Yep.
Now, you're gonna submit a bill to the town for $75.
Well, that was gonna be my next question, is do we submit it to the town, and the person pays the town? Or does the
Yeah,
person
I'd
write
Yeah.
a
The
check?
person writes a check to the town of Croydon, you come back to the town of Croydon, and you get paid.
To dock my time, which.
And
I would think that,
You're gonna bill $75 and we're gonna collect 50.
no. Okay,
No, but I think to keep it clean, it would have to go to the town of.
Which
Croydon.
is totally fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll just.
Well, so that's, I think-
Immediately allow one committed inspection on this property. or
So
whatever.
that's the only thing, I think, when there is a hearing for this, the planning board and the zoning fees, then zoning number, or whoever, a representative should be available. Because somebody might say, okay, why are we going to 200? And I mean, we
Oh,
can speak
no,
to
we
it
have
too, but obviously we want,
oh, somebody from the zoning
Yeah.
board to be at the meeting, okay, well, Bruce is gonna be there, because he's the moderator, so.
Yeah. Then I
well,
can't
at the
speak.
public hearing, I'm saying.
Oh,
Because the first step's gonna be the
Public-
public hearing, if we get a storm brewing from this, why is it 2 to 200, then we're gonna have to.
okay, yeah, we would ask that somebody show up.
Okay, so I will edit this to make it reality, and then I'll add the compliance to this.
This
So
will be-
this is just current fees.
Okay, this will all be for next week, we're gonna button everything up, and then.
And then I'm gonna put this on the back burner, because this will be
Although-
After the fact.
adjusted.
Although I
After the fact.
sort of like that,
I do like the form a lot.
I do like the formula. Okay.
If I can.
And then if anybody has changes to the site plan committee review process, can you please send that to me via email in the next few days so that when I come next Wednesday night, it's ready to go. I can produce final drafts.
And this is the form that you produced, correct?
This form, I produced this
No.
one. You can have that copy.
Jim did.
Thank you.
So that'll be next week, and then after that, we'll say, okay, this is what we're putting for the notice.
Hearing. And then we'll
I'm
do a
just
public
gonna
hearing,
add
and
a
hopefully that will
subdivision.
go by without too much.
So we can pull them all together.
When do you want an answer about the
Change.
process, the process
okay.
for select?
By Monday, by next Wednesday would be great.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night?
Yeah.
No, no, no,
But
no.
next Wednesday, yeah, it would be good. Okay, keep in mind, okay, drop dead date of January 11th, okay, that's when everything else. But then, public hearing. between that,
We can have a public hearing on, when we're ready, anytime between
Right.
now and,
The 11th of January.
Croydon Building
but
Code.
the 11th of January is the last day,
There's got to be one.
post and publish, public
Not
notice. The
necessarily.
first public hearing.
It has to be if it's in there, right? So
Anticipate.
that either needs
except
to come out.
The very last day that we.
Where is that?
That we're putting on proposed zoning amendments.
What's the title of this?
Monday, February 5th. And knowing
It's 1989, August.
I've got a
the
copy of mine.
public
You have a copy?
in Croydon, we're definitely going to want to start.
Don't you have this here, right?
Yeah, I have that.
So
Okay, isn't that what
the
you're looking?
petition zoning.
No, I'm
amendments
looking at-
will come in
Oh, I thought you were looking at a map.
November 13th.
What is coming in?
If we get any, we can get petition zoning amendments on November 13th. If anybody in the public wants a petition to make changes.
Just, it worked on 40 years.
Jason, is there any time, you anticipate,
Start looking.
okay, you anticipate possibly that you would send somebody else other than yourself to do the, what do we call it, certificate of occupancy visit?
Probably,
The way the ordinance is written now, the select board does a certificate of compliance. That's the way this is written now. You don't
talking
have,
about the
you're talking about fire
The fire
inspection.
department.
fire safety inspection. It'd either be me, my deputy, or the captain, that's it.
But you wouldn't,
And
but
fire.
we're not
So those
moving
would be-
forward with any of that right now. That's all,
Right,
that's gonna be in the
Down the
future,
road.
down the road.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
so
I don't wanna muddy the
so it's not
water.
just
It's
gonna
gonna
be
be, you'll
you.
think we're gonna be doing
Right.
fire inspections.
It would
No, I'll be turning us into.
To make the check out, town of Croydon,
Yeah.
Croydon,
Yeah.
then submit a voucher to the select board. and they'll-
If that's adopted, yes. He's not adopting that now, that process. They're not adopting that process now.
the fire
The
safety.
fire safety stuff is not, it's being discussed, it's not part of what we're going.
Right.
But we are putting the fee for it.
We're gonna put a fee in it for it, are we?
Yeah.
You can put a fee in for it, but we,
I was
wouldn't
saying,
add the
But can you put it in now and make it known that it's for a future process?
why would you do that?
Or
I
you
feel like
wait till
people
a
How
year
can you, how can you
start
assign a
doing it?
fee when there's no
One at a
process?
time.
Right.
Right.
I mean, you would have
So
no
like
idea
you
what you're
said,
paying.
let's go a year, let's see how this does, let's push the way this is
Right.
supposed to be
Because,
done.
because
see how
the
that
the nice
goes.
thing about what I'm proposing here is that you're already on this. You're part of the committee. You're gonna sit
Right,
for 8 times a year or whatever it is, right? So we're gonna know if that's gonna be a necessity.
right.
So I would say, wait, let the process
Yeah.
develop.
So I'm
I
gonna
agree.
strike.
Okay, so yeah, for
the
Chris.
site visit fee
Yes.
for now.
Strike it for now.
Okay.
End it, end it.
But getting the compliance up to 50.
Yes.
Okay, so you're happy with what you
I
got?
think so.
Okay.
Well, I'll make the edits in the next few days and I'll send it.
We'll find out next-
And if there's an issue.
Beer down there, bro?
Is there anything else? Otherwise, we can adjourn. We're good? Good?
Okay.
Thanks, guys, for coming by.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, zoning guys.
Oh, thank